Clippers are 0-4 with James Harden. USC's women's basketball team has a bona fide superstar on their roster. Freshman guard Juju Watkins had a game-high 35 points Monday night in the Trojans' easy win over Lemoyne. Watkins has scored 83 points in her first 3 games. USC is one of 5 Pac-12 schools ranked in the top 10 of this week's AP Women's College Basketball Poll. UCLA is 3rd, followed by number 4 Utah, number 5 Colorado, and number 6 Stanford. USC is 10th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, a conversation about the ways in which we are viewed and valued, a conversation about redefining who we collectively see as worthy in our society, and how we can create new narratives which can lead more people to feel the respect and dignity their humanity deserves. We'll be joined by esteemed Harvard professor and author Michelle Lamont. Her new book is called Seeing Others: How Recognition Works and How It Can Heal a Divided World. In our third hour,
you know you're sexy.
Thank you. Sir? Sir, can I check that newspaper? Sir, where are you going? Get a job, why don't you?
You could call me Q or GQ. What, did names like Mustafa and Akbar become too hard to spell? Yo, well, I'm serious now.
Well, I'm serious too, Raheem, and this does not make you a man.
I should have let you have her. Don't you remember? I let you have her. Almost empty. The cops, we want the security guards, like I'm on the damn track team. If you want respect, you gotta earn it. You gotta be ready to throw down, stand up, and die for that stuff if you want introduction of Jew.
Check this out. It's gonna be a piece of cake, Q.
Yeah, man, it'll be a piece of cake. We go in right before 11, get the loot, jet. I got a DJ Saturday night, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to miss that for nobody.
I hold on to the gun.
Why should he hold on to the gun?
Because I already got it. Free fire! You didn't have to shoot him, make a move. I want to ask you boys some questions.
Did you leave the club at any time tonight?
You're mixed up in it, aren't you?
I think Bishop lost it, man.
Who killed him? I'm the one y'all need to be worried about.
Hey, yo, man. If you didn't do nothing, then you got nothing to worry about. No one killed him.
Do him in if I have to.
It's pretty hard to celebrate the 50th anniversary of hip-hop without talking about all the films and all the soundtracks that have made this genre so hegemonic around the globe. In our third hour, a conversation with Omar Epps, who has starred in some classic and impactful films like Juice. I didn't want to tell you up front what that was, just testing to see if you recall that film. He was in Juice, of course, and so many other films and so many great TV shows, including House. But he's also an accomplished author. And so a career conversation with Omar Epps today in hour 3. In this first hour, though, 2 more conversations on the B side of this hour, improving your net worth and your self-worth simultaneously. A conversation with the founder of Bright Up, Valerie Mosley. But we commenced today's show talking politics with the creator and publisher of The Morning Hangover, Democratic strategist and LA Times contributor, Kurt Bardella. Kurt, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing well. I'm delighted to be in conversation with you. Let me just jump in, make the most of these times, these moments that we have here. I think I want to start with this. A lot of trending political news to get to, as there seems to be every day these days. But the big news domestically, we'll come to the international stuff in a moment. Of course, the Israel-Hamas war ongoing, and there's a lot of news to talk about there over the last 24 hours. But this government shutdown, in some ways, is looming later this week. On the other hand, I'm starting to hear rumblings. I'm live on the air, obviously, so I don't know what's happening at this very second, but I know that there's a vote scheduled for today. The new Speaker, Mike Johnson, is trying to push through this two-step, this laddered approach, if you will. He is catching hell from his conservative flank, who are upset that there aren't spending cuts in this. It's a two-step process, but the funding levels remain where they are now. So his right flank, the flank that pushed him, in fact, to become the speaker, is falling out with him once again. The Democrats aren't crazy about this approach, and yet they don't want the government to shut down. So we'll see what Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats do today. But this is a quagmire if ever there is one, ever was one. I said yesterday on this program, and I said weeks ago for that matter, I don't know that Mike Johnson is going to suffer a fate any different than Kevin McCarthy eventually. I'm not sure it's going to be this week. What say you then, all that said, about the government shutdown that we hope won't transpire later this week?
Well, it's very clear that MAGA Mike is way in over his head and has no business sitting at the adults' table because he has no earthly idea what he's doing, which is what happens when you promote someone from, literal political obscurity to being in, the Speaker of the House, one of the most powerful positions in all of government. I don't understand what Mike thinks is going to happen if he passes this continuing resolution approach with Democrat support and not the majority of his conference. That is no different than the predicament that Kevin McCarthy found himself in, and it was the nail in the coffin of his reign as Speaker.
Precisely.
I also don't know why Democrats would be actually bailing Johnson out right now without at least extracting something in return. I think that the idea of a two-tiered laddered approach is completely idiotic. Why on earth would we create not one but 2 deadlines for government funding to potentially lapse and shutdowns to commence in a tiered, staggered approach That's twice the votes that have to be taken. That's twice the negotiating that would have to happen. These guys can't even get one thing done.
Mm-hmm.
What on earth makes anyone think two of them is a good idea? I don't see the point of it.
Yep. I take your point, and yet when we come forward, I want to come right back to the issue you raised a moment ago about why Democrats should bail him out. I've raised this issue before. On the one hand, it can be viewed as bailing MAGA Mike, as you called him, Mike Johnson, the speaker. On the one hand, it can be viewed as bailing him out. On the other hand, you don't bail him out, the government shuts down. It ain't like Democrats got a great choice. Just getting started with Kurt Bardella on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth. Speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac perfected like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Dilly, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range. On a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with SCHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
Hello?
Man, where are you? I thought you were coming.
I can't. I'm in bed with the flu.
The flu? Whoa. Grandma's about to crowd surf. Man, I'll call you back.
Don't get stuck at home with the flu. A flu shot is safe, effective, and you can get it at the same time as your COVID-19 vaccine. A flu shot is the best way to prevent the flu and its potentially serious complications. Don't get flu FOMO. Learn more at getmyflushot.org.
Brought to you by the AMA, CDC, and the Ad Council.
Beloved Entertainment presents Sweet Spot Live with me, Angelique Francis, at the beautiful Miracle Theater at 226 South Market Street in Inglewood on Sunday, November 19th at 6 p.m. Join me with KBLA for short stories told live on stage with us, by us. Yes, our own storytellers straight from the neighborhood. Colorful and provocative live storytelling event celebrating our unique culture, our strength, our courage, our faith, and yes, our fire. We invite you to walk with us through the neighborhood, even run with us down our dark alleys if you dare. Just around the corner, there is laughter, unspeakable pain, secrets never told. But don't worry. The door is unlocked, and we're going to leave the porch light on. That's Sunday, November 19th at the Miracle Theater, 226 Market Street in Inglewood, 6 p.m. Yes, it is all happening right here in the Sweet Spot. Tickets available, sweetspotlive.eventbrite.com, sweetspotlive.eventbrite.com. We got a lot to talk about.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley in conversation with Democratic strategist Kurt Bardella, who I'm delighted to have on to commence today. To commence, if I can say it, commence today's show. If I just use a regular small word like begin, I might have gotten it out easier. Anyway, Kurt, good to have you on our program. So you made a powerful point about the fact that we have to do this not once but twice if we follow the plan that Speaker Mike Johnson has laid out. But I don't know what option Democrats have. It's plausible and certainly strategic. Okay, there goes Kurt's phone line. Let's get Kurt back on the line, and I will lay out where I want to go while we get him back. It's live radio. That stuff happens from time to time. I was about to say to Kurt that I'm not sure what options Democrats have. On the one hand, you could not bail him out, that is to say Speaker Johnson, and yet the government shuts down. And I'm not sure the Democrats want to be a party to anything that shuts down the government right around the holidays, particularly when, as we discussed on this program yesterday, the persons who are first in line to be hurt, always the most vulnerable. The poor and the vulnerable are always the first in line to be impacted by any government shutdown. So if Democrats refuse to bail him out, if they don't support this plan, then the government shuts down around the holiday season. They are in part responsible for that, and their constituency gets hurt the most. On the other hand, they bailed this guy out, and one could read that as aiding and abetting the opposition. So, Kurt, I'm not sure Democrats are in a great slot. Your thoughts?
I think that Democrats need to play hardball. I think Democrats need to say, if you want our votes because you can't get a majority of your conference, you need to give us something. That's negotiation 101. Republicans have the majority in the House of Representatives. They are in control. They have the authority. The idea that it would in any way be Democrats' fault that the majority can't do their job, that the majority can't put together a proposal that can get the majority of votes that they need, that's on them. That's not on Democrats. I don't understand why we would put ourselves in a position and set the precedent that going forward, we're just going to rubber stamp whatever Speaker Johnson wants to do because he can't govern his own people while getting nothing in return, nothing for Ukraine, nothing for Israel. I don't see why we would be doing that as Democrats. I think that's strategically a terrible idea, and you're just letting them off the hook. And then we're just going to, you know what the prize is? We get to go do this again in January. Not once, but twice.
Yeah. Let me challenge you on that, just because I like picking a fight every now and then. So pardon me for wanting to pick a fight. So I hear your point about the majority not being able to figure its way out of a wet paper bag. I get that point, and yet that's a cynical way of looking at government. Is government really about the majority party? Or is it about we the people? In other words, if Democrats and Republicans are elected to represent us and shutting down the government hurts all of us, starting with, again, the poor and the most vulnerable, is it really sort of myopic to have, and I'm not naive, and again, I'm playing devil's advocate, but is it sort of myopic to look at it as majority versus a minority versus a government that works for all of us?
Well, I would agree with you that it should be that way, but we aren't that removed from the fact that one of the two parties in America tried to, throw out a free and fair election on that very floor of the House of Representatives. The night of January 6th voted against certifying the clear, decisive, and legal victory of Joe Biden. They've withdrawn from the Democratic experiment. They have made it a majority versus minority situation. And again, it's like they are the ones that are in the majority. It's their job to get this done. If you want Democrat votes, then we need to fight for Democrat priorities. We need to get something in return for that. And right now we're not. All we're getting is a process that will be even more complicated and contentious a month and a half from now.
All right, so
I don't get why we're doing this.
No, I take your point. Let me just press this one more time. We'll move on. I want to cover some other issues with you. So I hear your point, and strategically, again, I'm not stuck on stupid. I'm not naive. I get it. Strategically play hardball, understood. But when they play hardball and the government shuts down, I repeat for the third time, the persons that are going to get hurt first and fastest are the poor and the vulnerable, and that is the Democratic constituency. So there's a price my point is there's a price they're going to pay for playing hardball if they let this thing shut down this week.
Well, I think that the price is even cheaper, though, if you let Republicans continue to do what they want to do, which is defund every single Democrat priority. And we're going to be right back where we are today in January. It'd be different if this was a permanent one-year continuing resolution that put an end to this cycle of kicking the can down the road. But instead, it's just a temporary patchwork. And someone's going to have to explain to me what will be different in January than today. Nothing's going to change. We're going to be having the same conversation 72 hours before the government partially shuts down in January. So if we're going to go through the pain of repeating this insane cycle, Democrats should be getting something back for it.
All right, that's the government shutdown, Kurt. I'll leave that where it is for now. I'm sure I'll come back to this tomorrow and the next day, whether I want to or not. It's an issue that matters to everyday people, as it should. And we'll see where we are on this fight tomorrow. Again, a vote scheduled for today, and we'll see if this continuing resolution gets through today while we're live on the air. But again, that's where we are on that issue at the moment. Let me move now to Donald Trump, whether, again, I want to or not. Trump, all of the news for a couple of things I want to get your temperature on Kurt. First, in the news, because he is demanding that there be cameras in the courtroom for his federal case. We know the case, of course, has been ongoing in New York about his overinflating his worth and value of his company. That's the case brought by Letitia James, the Attorney General, the sister AG in the state of New York. We're talking now about the case in the black judge, speaking of black women, Judge Tanya Chutkin's courtroom in D.C. This is the case brought by the federal government, Jack Smith, the special prosecutor. And in this federal case, Donald Trump is insisting, his team is insisting that this trial be televised. That is not the case. Typically in federal court or the Supreme Court, we don't televise those cases, and yet he's arguing that it ought to be. In this particular instance, I'm not so sure that I disagree with Donald Trump. My reasons for wanting to see this thing televised are different than his, but what do you make of his making this case that this trial ought to be televised?
Anytime that Trump is out there trying to advocate for something, it makes me think that just by default there's something else going on there. It's not that straightforward. We know that Donald Trump is not someone who is on the side of transparency and openness. And I look at, Jack Smith has, brought down the hammer on Trump and pushed back against the suspicious bid to have this criminal trial televised. Smith knows exactly what Trump is trying to plan here. And I just don't take anything that Donald Trump does at face value. There's always another ulterior motive that works against, the public's interest that explains his activities. Obviously, trials in federal courts are not usually televised. The effort by, having these, what I call MAGA cameras, put forward is really a transparent effort to demand special treatment to try this case in the courtroom of public opinion and turn the trial into a media event, terrain that we know Donald Trump is very, very comfortable in, rather than actually having it be about the facts of the case. Prosecutors correctly pointed out in their filing, that broadcasting trial could put the witnesses in danger and leave them open to intimidation efforts, something we've seen Donald Trump and his allies time and again not hesitate to unleash their twisted and unhinged supporters against people that they think are threats. And so I think that, the idea that this would be, trial by press could very much impact the actual case and really put witnesses in jeopardy.
And let me just play devil's advocate. I don't know where you are, Kurt, but all of a sudden you got background noise there, and I don't know why people think they can do radio interviews in spaces with background noise, but I digress on that point for now. Let me play devil's advocate right quick, though. We don't typically have cameras in these courtrooms, as I said that a moment ago, in the federal court or in the Supreme Court. And yet, this is a very unique case. This is a former president who is accused of a variety of things, including trying to overthrow the government. And I would argue that if ever there were a trial that ought to be seen on television, it is one that involves a former U.S. president who's accused of the kinds of heinous crimes, the ugly, vicious crimes that he is accused of. Why should the American people be denied an opportunity to see that live and in living color? If ever you're going to break the rules, I would think now is the time to do that. I understand Trump's arguments, and my argument's not his arguments, but I think that the greater level of transparency doesn't hurt the American public. It does not hurt our democracy.
Well, I understand the point of that, but again, I just draw the line at why are we treating Donald Trump differently than anybody else? Like, he does not get special treatment, and if he wants this done, then I think if he thinks this helps him, then by default, I don't think we should do it. And I trust that Jack Smith knows what he's talking about. And just imagine what would happen if we allow cameras in there. Trump basically puts a target on every single witness. All of a sudden, every witness is being harassed, threatened with violence, potentially assaulted or hurt or murdered. Well, then what are we going to be saying about the wisdom of putting cameras in the room and breaking precedent for the first time? Because that's what's going to happen. The MAGA people will unleash their band of domestic terrorists on anyone who speaks out against Donald Trump. We would be putting a target on the back of any witness in that proceeding if we televise it.
Respectfully, I think you're naive in that. I say respectfully because, number one, you act as if when these persons come to testify that the general public ain't going to know who they are anyway. Do you really believe that if you're testifying in this case, we're not going to know who you are? the national news media is going to ensure that we know who you are anyway, number one. So you can't hide because the cameras aren't in the courtroom, number one. And number two, I think the exact opposite, that the greater the transparency, the greater the openness, the greater we can see. It's like daylight is the best antiseptic. So I don't think that trying to hide it under the cover of darkness in any way aids and abets anybody involved in this case.
Well, then why don't we just put every single court case on television then? I
ain't got a problem with that either. I mean, I'm all for transparency. So you ain't getting a rise out of me in that regard. I am not at all against. I think there ought to be cameras in the Supreme Court. I believe that across the board, greater transparency is always a good thing. And so I hear your point. I'll move on. I just think we disagree on that one. Let me go now to Joe Biden. We talked about Donald Trump. Let me go to Joe Biden. If you're reading this, Kurt, the same way I'm reading it, and I suspect you are, whether we agree or not on what we see, we're looking at the same stuff. And Joe Biden is starting to get every day a greater level of pushback on this Israel policy. It's not just the protests that are happening in this country from California to the Carolinas. It's not just the protests happening globally. In the last 48 hours, we've seen congressional aides walk out of their offices and have a protest on the steps of the Capitol. And now today, big story of the New York Times, 400 government employees beyond those on the Capitol have now signed a letter to the president critiquing his Israel policy, and people are demanding a ceasefire. The point I'm getting into without elongating this is that there is greater pressure on him every day from all kinds of quarters to do something different than we've done already on this Israel policy. And the fact that they being the Biden administration, continue to not want to say ceasefire. They do not want to use the word de-escalation, but you see the pressure building every day from all parts of government and beyond. How are you reading that?
Yeah, I think that there's a generational gap right now, frankly, between the president and traditional Democrats versus where the next generation of voters and activists are on this. And I think that gap is being exposed right now. I think that the president is respectfully just out of step and out of tune with that. And he's kind of seeing, I think, in real time, the very real and passionate voices within the Democratic Party who think that the old party line of just blindly standing by Israel and that Israel can do no wrong, like that's not going to cut it anymore. That's not where a lot of Democrats are. And they're going to have to navigate that because he is looking every day more and more out of touch with where a lot of Democrats are on this.
Yep. I referenced a moment ago these 400 U.S. officials. Let me give you a bit more information about that. More than 400 political appointees and staff members representing some 40 government agencies sent a letter to President Biden today protesting his support of Israel in its war in Gaza. So all across the board, he's getting more and more pressure vis-a-vis his policy on Israel. Let me close by asking you this question, Kurt Bardella. You are a Democratic strategist. In the long run, if this continues unabated, if Biden doesn't get the message sooner than later to talk about ceasefire and de-escalation, is this the kind of thing that will hurt him when it comes to re-election? Or will we have forgotten about this by then? Or put another way, if Trump is the opponent, will it really not matter? And Joe Biden's calculating this just about right.
Yeah, I don't think that it'll matter in terms of 2024 because ultimately anyone who is a Democrat who might disagree with the president on Israel, well, they're not going to be in Donald Trump's corner either. So I'm not worried about that. But I do think that the generational gap that's being exposed here is a broader structural concern for the Democratic Party that, maybe not in 2024, but certainly after that, Democrats are going to have to figure this stuff out. And they're going to actually have to get back in tune or risk looking like they're completely out of touch with where the current generation of people actually are, because this isn't old school Washington anymore. And the Israel can do no wrong mentality, default mentality of the Democratic Party is just completely out of touch with where everybody else is.
Kurt Bardella, Democratic strategist, LA Times contributor. Good to have you on this program. All the best to you, sir. Have a great rest of the day. When we come forward on the B side of this hour, improving your net worth and your self-worth simultaneously, a conversation with the founder of Bright Up, Valerie Mosley, who joins us live in studio when we come forward.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. It is a Tuesday, November 14th. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The National Guard is being called in to help Washington, D.C. police with today's March for Israel. The mayor made it clear, even though the event is being called a march, those attending are not expected to move away from their position on the National Mall. About 60,000 people are expected for today's rally, which is scheduled to begin at 1 o'clock. That's Eastern Time. Rhode Island Congressman Gabe Amo was sworn into office on Monday. Amo won a special election in November to serve out the remaining term of Representative David Cicilline, who resigned earlier this summer. He is the first black representative Rhode Island has sent to Washington, D.C. in that state's history. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Staples Holiday Deals mean amazing savings for the holiday season. Right now, save 50% on custom holiday cards and invitations, as well as custom photo gifts like mugs and calendars. Offer ends 12/16. Visit staples.com/print for more details. Have yourself a merry little holiday deal at Staples.
If you like using debit over credit, shouldn't you also get rewarded? Well, now you can with Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cash back on everyday purchases with no fees, period. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight. The Lakers are at home against Memphis. LeBron is questionable with a calf contusion in his left leg. He will likely be a game-time decision. The Clippers are in a tough place to try to snap their 5-game losing streak. They're in Denver to take on the defending champion Nuggets. The Clippers are 0-4 with James Harden. USC's women's basketball team has a bona fide superstar on their roster. Freshman guard Juju Watkins had a game-high 35 points Monday night in the Trojans' easy win over Lemoyne. Watkins has scored 83 points in her first 3 games. USC is one of 5 Pac-12 schools ranked in the top 10 of this week's AP Women's College Basketball poll. UCLA is 3rd, followed by number 4 Utah, number 5 Colorado, and number 6 Stanford. USC is 10th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Are you interested in catching up on all the latest entertainment news, trending topics, and exciting interviews? I got you. Tune in to The Raw Report with Robin Ayers, Monday through Friday, 6 to 7 p.m. I'm your host, Robin Ayers. Join me every weekday with some of the best entertainment contributors in the business as we break down what's going on, who's got next, and what not to miss. Only on The Raw Report with Robin Ayers.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet,
especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
Now. We tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
We thank Kurt Bardella for that conversation, and now we move to a conversation about improving your net worth and your self-worth simultaneously. Who says it can't be done at the same time? Net worth and self-worth can both escalate simultaneously. I'm pleased to be welcome, to our studio. The founder of Bright Up, Valerie Mosley. Valerie, you got me nervous already. See that I'm stumbling on my words. How are you today?
I am well. I'm blessed and highly favored and happy to be here.
It's good to see you. I'm glad to have you in studio. So I said net worth and self-worth improving simultaneously. We'll get to that in a moment. Before I do that, though, tell me about Bright Up. I love the work that you're doing with Bright Up.
Thank you so much. Bright Up is a fintech platform, and our focus is to democratize wealth building and well-being.
Mm-hmm. And by democratizing wealth building and well-being, you mean what exactly?
I mean that if you think about wealth, it's created by the assets that we own minus the liabilities that we owe. Mm-hmm. And for most of us, we are underinvested for sure. We don't have enough assets, but we're over indebted. And the debt that we have is highly priced. Mm-hmm. So that gets in the way. So we're focusing on reducing the cost and the amount of capital, the cost and the amount of debt that people have, because that gets in the way, and expensive doubt. And they're both really expensive liabilities, and they hold us back. The former gets in the way of our net worth, and the latter gets in the way of our self-worth.
Let me take them one at a time. Talk about. Now I'm lost on former or latter at this point. Let's start with decreasing debt.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Take that one first.
Take that. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, we think about assets minus liabilities. Liabilities is just your debt, and many of us have credit cards, and we're often overcharged. And the reason is because most banks and financial institutions use this FICO score as an indicator of risk. And what science and studies have shown is that it is not the best predictor of risk, and we disproportionately are overcharged. That's with credit cards. And with auto loans, it's outrageous how, let me give you an example, how much we're overcharged. When you go to buy an automobile, they will tell you this is what it's going to cost you from a cash flow standpoint. Most people don't ask, what is that interest rate? So as a result, and this happened in my own family with my sister, as a result, you're overcharged. So if within the same FICO band, I've seen a differential of 10 percentage points difference of what people are charged. And most people don't know you can actually refinance your auto rates. You know that you can refinance your mortgage rates. And the reason this is important is because if someone's about to buy a house, if there's a 50 basis points difference in the rate, you'll stand out. And it's very competitive. 50 basis points, 25 basis points. What that means is if it's 7.2%, and it might go 50 basis points to 7.7%, that's a big difference. Imagine if it's 7% and then it goes to 17%. That's the difference that will show up in the auto space. So we're focusing on democratizing wealth building by starting with what gets in the way, because if you can reduce that, you'll have more cash flow, which most people need. And that extra cash flow you can then use to invest or save or do other things. Just
because I'm curious, why is the auto industry, and I'm not naive in asking this, I think I have an idea, but you tell me, you're the expert, why is the automobile industry so outrageous?
Because they can be, and because most consumers don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Mainly because they can. And one of our partners happened to be at an automobile financing center.
Mm-hmm.
And he heard the owner tell the salesperson, lower the price, increase the rates. So if he's talking to the person on the sales floor,
right,
he's saying, okay, well, we've got a deal for you. We're going to lower this price, but the rates are going to be higher. They're going to make their money one way or the other.
Yeah.
And most people don't appreciate the important question, which is, what is the APR you're charging me? And make sure that that's competitive. And if you buy a new car that is you're buying a new car,
mm-hmm.
the automobile companies might lower their rates because they're going to make the money on the actual car.
Mm-hmm.
But used cars, when you go there, they're making often much of their money based on the interest rate. I'll give you a personal example. My
mm-hmm.
sister, Atia, she said, Val, I want to buy a car. And I said, what is your APR? And she's like, I'm not sure, but I know I can afford $275 a month.
Mm-hmm.
I said, let me talk to the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind? And she's like, no. What is the rate? This was when interest rates were 0. They were charging her 13%, which is outrageous.
Mm.
So I said to the guy, are you kidding me? Companies rated triple B is high yield companies.
Mm-hmm.
Triple C rated companies, which is the lowest, have better rates than 13%. My sister's credit isn't that bad. Within 24 hours, Tavis, they called back and said, okay, we'll do this at 9%. 400 basis points just because I asked.
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, Vicky, or Atia, as she goes by, that's still too much. She's like, Val, I need a car. So she gets the car, and then she comes back. She says one day, you're going to be really proud of me. Within 6 months, she refinanced her loan to 3%. So think about starting off at 13 and ending up at 3.
Yeah.
That's a lot of cash flow that families need.
Yeah.
And they don't know that they can get it. And so we're on a mission to make sure that more people are represented fairly.
And I was in a conversation with somebody yesterday, and this ain't the first time you've heard this, but there are people who believe, not just believe, it's true, that the minute you buy a new car, the minute you drive it off the lot, it starts to depreciate. So there are a lot of folk who don't even believe in buying new cars.
There's a theory around that.
Okay.
Yes, it's true. It does depreciate. Nowadays, there's an interesting opportunity.
Okay.
And I just want to throw this out.
Give it to me, yeah.
So it is true that as soon as it leaves the lot, it depreciates.
Right.
And some cars depreciate more than others. More people are starting to think about cars as an asset because there's a company called Turo where you can rent your car just like you would rent your home. And as long as you're going to make off of the rentals more than what you would pay, it can be an asset. And so there's an analysis that can be done that says, well, the new car might get a better rate. In general, you're absolutely right, and I tend to buy used cars myself.
See, that's
so you're right. I buy used cars myself. You are not wrong.
I'm laughing because I've done this long enough to know that whenever I ask an expert a question and they give me an answer, I listen patiently and then I wait and say, okay, now what do you do?
Exactly.
And every time
I buy used.
Yeah, and every time I get to that question, like, okay, that's what I'm really trying to hear. What do you do, Valerie Mosley?
Yeah, I do that. I do think that there is a world where you can think about buying more than one and you're renting out the other and you can create an asset, particularly if you live near an airport or near a train station.
That makes sense. All right, so that's a bit about net worth, improving our net worth. I want to talk more about that when we come forward. I want to connect this, though, to self-worth. Our guest is Valerie Mosley. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton. And I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
Did you know there's a way to outsmart COVID if you get it? Now there are medicines that can treat COVID, whether or not you've been vaccinated, which is great news, especially if you're over 50. If taken in the first 5 days of having symptoms, COVID medicines can help stop the illness from getting serious. Call a healthcare provider or the statewide COVID hotline at 833-422-4255 to learn more about COVID medicines. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed with Valerie Mosley, who's the author of, the founder of, she's that too.
Soon to be.
She's that too, soon to be. See, that was a,
yeah,
you feel that?
Wise. I feel
that?
it. Bring it on.
You got to own that, right?
Exactly.
I said author because I know she's working on something, so I'm already claiming.
Yes.
The Bible says we claim those things that are not as though they are.
As though they are.
So we know the book is on the way. I was, instead of author, I meant to say the founder of Bright Up, a financial wellness company, and we're talking for a few minutes here about how you can improve your net worth and your self-worth simultaneously. As I said many times, this audience knows sometimes the best conversations happen in the breaks. I try not to do that because I don't want the audience to miss out. But very quickly, you were making a powerful point as we were just talking off air about love and money and the link that you see between those two things. And we talk about money, we don't ever talk about love. The audience heard me say many times when we talk about public policy, we don't talk about love. Dr. King put love in the center of the public square around the work that he did. Mandela put love in the center. Gandhi put love in the center. Bobby Kennedy put love in the center. You start talking about love and nonviolence and those kinds of things in politics now, they laugh you out the room, right? Mm-hmm. Here you come now talking about the connection between love and money, and you don't mean the love of money.
No.
Make that connection for me right quick.
Exactly. Your financial wellness journey starts with a self-love journey. Mm-hmm. Because for many, in fact for most, money matters bring up feelings of anxiety and blame and sometimes shame. But when you're loving yourself along the way, you proceed with grace. Mm-hmm. And fear is a very different energy than love. It's like, I am lovable. I'm in this situation. And sometimes things happen outside of your control. Mm-hmm. So you have to remember that where you are is not always your fault, right? You weren't taught it in school. You probably didn't learn about it from your parents. And if you look at the history of actual wages, the 90% of wage earners in the United States, their wages have only increased in real terms 26% over the last 40 years. So it hasn't changed. That's the bottom 90% of all earners.
They're stagnant, yeah.
In contrast, the top 0.1% is 350% up. The top 1% is over 200. But the bottom 90%, it hasn't changed very much, 26%. But if you look at the components of the CPI or the inflation rate over just the last 20 years, things that people like ourselves, want to get ahead, school costs have gone up over 170%. Medical costs over 100%. Food and energy, 60 and 75%. So on a usage-adjusted basis, we are worse off. Most people are struggling. So when you realize that it's not your fault, when you are loving yourself and when things don't go well, when managing money and when managing life, that's when you want to double down and reinvest in you and see the worth in you, and you can have much higher upside.
Why is it that for so many of us, managing money is so hard? I'm thinking of all the things that we do in life, all the pursuits that we have, and almost to a person, money is just hard for people to manage.
It is. One, you haven't been taught it. It's not required in school. That's one. But there's another reason that I think is really fascinating. I'd love to share it with everyone.
Give it to me.
And there was a study that was done, and it's all about epigenetics. This is a science. There was a rodent that was harmed. And when the rodent was harmed, they introduced a smell. For example purposes, I'm going to say it's a boysenberry. And they measured the brain waves of this rodent who's being harmed. Not one, Tavis, 2, 3 generations later, the mere introduction of the smell of the boysenberry caused a reaction in this rodent's brain. So it's generational trauma. So if you think about our communities, if you have anxiety or anxiousness around money, more than likely your mother and father did, and your grandmother and grandfather did. I'm saying that there is some, at a cellular level, there's some issues that will come up that you just want to become aware of. Right. And then I'm optimistic. There are definitely things that you can do once you just are aware of the fact, like, okay. And we're taught things like, you just talked about the love of money. So we're grown up, if you're spiritual and you went to church, there's some narrative that
love of money is the root of all evil.
The root of all evil.
There you go. The
love, not the money. Not the money.
Exactly.
The love of money is the root of all evil. So we have these teachings that say, whoa, maybe I shouldn't like money. And it's not that you don't, and then we don't try. So our mindset is really important. Our mindset can be an asset, actually. So we have to become aware of what gets in the way.
Let's talk about
and that's what Bright Up is focusing on. Start with what gets in the way. Right. It's your debt and your doubt.
Let's talk about our mindset as an asset in the remaining moments with Valerie Mosley. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful they saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment. LA's 99 neighborhood councils form the grassroots level of the Los Angeles city government. The system was created to connect LA's diverse communities to City Hall. While neighborhood council board members are volunteers, they are also public officials elected to office by the members of their community. Neighborhood councils advocate on issues like homelessness, housing, land use, emergency preparedness, public safety, parks, transportation, and sustainability. They also provide local expertise on the delivery of city services to their various communities. Neighborhood councils are open to participation by anyone who is a part of the fabric of daily life in said community. This includes those who live, work, or own property or a business. If you are interested in stepping up to join your local neighborhood council, visit www.empowerla.org. That's empowerla.org. It's time to think globally, but act locally. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right. Y'all gotta try that Febreze car. Just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency on low Febreze car clips right on your vid. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
All right, Valerie Mosley, we got about 4 minutes left in this conversation. Valerie's first time on this program, but not her last. Just delighted at this conversation so far. So tell me quickly this link between mindset, how your mindset, as you put it, can be an asset.
It can. It's what do you see? Mm-hmm. What has gone well in your life? And that's a start for disrupting the debt. Your mindset. Mm-hmm. It really matters. Your mindset can also be a liability. Mm-hmm. And you know it. I'm sure you've met some people who see only what's going wrong as opposed to what is possible. So when you have that mindset, when you have a setback or a drawdown, which happens in money, what you see sets you up for the biggest rebound. By way of background, I'm an investor. I manage a lot of money for a large firm globally.
Billions.
Yes. Billions. And I see these parallels between managing money and managing life. And I, along with an amazing team, is on this mission to make sure that more people see it. And what you see affects how you feel, and it affects what you'll try. And so the reason this is so important, money matters, because you asked the question, why is it so hard? We don't often see what's possible. So when you learn how to compound and how compounding interest works, which is what Warren Buffett said is the eighth wonder of the world, then you can understand also the power of compounding unconditional self-love, which I say is the ninth wonder of the world. And you need that. And when you do that, your mindset will see what's possible and not only what's wrong. And that's what we need to make sure that we show people who might be struggling with their finances. Even people who have a lot of money have anxiety around it because they don't know where to go. So we at Bright Up, sign up for Bright Up. We're on the app. You can go there. You'll learn a little bit about your mindset, as well as if you have debt or if you have other people that have debt, let's start talking about how we're going to reduce the cost of your debt and the amount of your debt. You've got to take a look at the amount of income that's coming in and where it's going. Just like we have to be mindful of the energy that we have and where is our energy going. Because after all, we are worth it.
It's called Bright Up. Indeed, we are worth it. It's called Bright Up. You can Google it and find it and read about it. Again, Valerie's first appearance on this program, not her last, because you can tell I'm just getting warmed up 30 minutes in with all kinds of questions that we'll unpack the next time you're on this program. For now, again, it's called Bright Up. Her name is Valerie Mosley, and you'll be hearing her voice more frequently on this program. Valerie, good to see you.
It's great to see you, too. You asked a question, again, around that mindset piece, and how is that related to doubt? If you don't believe, you will not try. So if you take a dog that's been attached to a tree and you cut off the leash, that dog often won't move because there's
beyond that
parameter.
Yeah, I get it.
So you have to believe, and the mindset is it's possible.
We'll talk more about it in the days ahead. Valerie, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for having us.
Good to have you here. Me. More Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. It is a Tuesday, November 14th. I'm Mike Moore. Now, here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The National Guard is being called in to help Washington, D.C. police with today's March for Israel. The mayor made it clear, even though the event is being called a march, those attending are not expected to move away from their position on the National Mall. About 60,000 people are expected for today's rally, which is scheduled to begin at 1 o'clock. That's Eastern Time. Rhode Island Congressman Gabe Amo was sworn into office on Monday. Amo won a special election in November to serve out the remaining term of Representative David Cicilline, who resigned earlier this summer. He is the first black representative Rhode Island has sent to Washington, D.C. in that state's history. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
For more details, have yourself a merry little holiday at Staples.